Okay, well, welcome to Gafferpedia. Today we are with Spencer Halse, and who is a freelance event technician, crew member, operator, got a few of your own clients, got a little bit of gear, basically starting out. But what's really remarkable about Spencer and really admirable and inspiring is you are only 20 years old.
That's right.
When I was 20, I started in this game, but I was a trainee, not an operator, so I didn't have my own clients. So,
yeah, I was definitely in flip chart territory.
Yeah, exactly.
At that age, I think.
So it's rather remarkable. So let's, first of all, let's just do a bit of a sketch, just a little bit picture of how you got to be in this fantastic or awesome position to be a 20-year-old senior technician.
Well, beautiful. Well, firstly, Linton, John, thanks for having me. Well, it all started when I was quite young. I've been around AV my whole life. So, as a youngster growing up, my dad, he's in the AV game.
Yes.
And so back when I was 5, 6, 7...
Can we shout out to Michael?
Yeah, absolutely.
Michael Halse and I used to work staging connections together. So, I mean, he has been in the game for a long time.
He has.
Had a really successful business. I mean, after staging, he went to Micro, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And then he started his own business with his business partner.
Yeah, and recently
focusing on corporate events.
Essentially retired or got out, sold up.
Yeah. He's not in the game at the moment. Just through COVID, things have changed.
Yeah.
And circumstances have changed as they have for so many people.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of people who who were in the industry now. They've got kids, they've got whatever their situation is, they couldn't afford simply to, have, an unknown period of time of work.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't know when that would end.
No, absolutely.
And it also gave people just some time to sit and think. And some people have reassessed and decided to go into different directions for a whole range of reasons. Yeah.
So,
interesting time.
So you've been doing, through your dad, you've been, I guess, seen this all your life.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, especially once he started his company, it gave me the opportunity to come in on the weekends, and I was in the warehouse, I was around the gear.
Yeah.
As I got older, I would eventually, actually be helpful, which was always good. But it's amazing how much you learn, when you're younger. Just how much you absorb, and so from being around that, looking back now, just so many. I've got so many, fairly detailed memories about it, and just lots of things that I learned through that. So being in the warehouse, and then that eventually sort of manifested to coming along to jobs, and I'd say in the hundreds of jobs that I went to with my dad growing up.
Yeah,
and so this is 12, 13, 14.
Yep.
Wow.
And so being around the gear in the warehouse and then at jobs, and the surprising thing was that the clients loved seeing me too.
Okay.
It was actually great. Like I remember some of the clients. I won't name anyone in particular, but some of them, they saw me at jobs on repeat. So it was just great, and that really gave me a huge head start. Obviously.
Did you find, like you're saying, around 6 or 7, you're still you in amongst it? Did you have like a natural curiosity for it? Like with all this tech around, did you find yourself going, "Oh wow, what's that?" and all this kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, growing up, I was never sort of into the sports and stuff like that. I was always a bit of a sort of weird kid, a bit of an outsider.
Yeah.
Take that what you will, but
no, it's a fairly common trait, I think,
definitely.
in our game.
So I was always very inquisitive. I just wanted to learn. I wanted to understand how things work, be it a light switch on the wall, or how electricity flows, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so that led me to being pretty interested in what my dad did, because I knew it was very technical, and even at that sort of young age, I ended up being dragged along to the warehouse a couple of times, and I liked what I saw. It was really cool. Lots of tech, lots of cool electronics going on. So I didn't really sort of understand at that sort of young age what it all.
Yeah, but you had that intrigue, you had that curiosity about it.
That's
and
right.
There was something exciting, I guess, which is
absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you study school anything sort of related, or just kept
Well, I studied media, in the later years of school. But I think sort of in the early years of school, I was very academic. I was quite a high achieving sort of student. But as I went through secondary school and through high school and everything, it that sort of academic drive kind of diminished at
Yep.
the end. And, remembering that because I'm 20, COVID was happening in year 11 and 12.
Yeah, of
for me.
course.
So,
Yeah.
Going from school as normal for the last, forever,
Yeah.
to work, doing school from home, and it was a real big hit, and it made things
definitely.
quite difficult.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. My academic drive, certainly diminished as I sort of finished school.
But is that because also you've sort of realised that this is what you want to do? You kind of see
Yeah,
a
well,
path?
I'd never thought that I'd go to university or anything like that. I always wanted to either run my own business or do something in this sort of tech field.
Yep.
And I knew a lot of people in it, and especially, over that COVID period, not sure if my teachers would like hearing this, but especially towards the end of year 12, I was spending more time
Yeah.
working in this field
Yeah.
than doing school.
Yeah.
But because it was working from home, so
Of course.
it was all,
Yeah, definitely.
or learning from home rather.
Yeah.
And you touched on the network as well. That's such a massive benefit that you can get at this young age. Being involved in the industry from say 13 and just going out and meeting people at jobs, like that's a big head start on building your network, which
Yeah.
is
Totally.
would
You've already
be a massive
broken through,
advantage.
haven't you? You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put it like that. It's it sounds pretty unreal, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was it's certainly a great head start, and I think especially the first sort of few jobs that I did, freelancing with people, certainly having my dad as that sort of mutual connection there really helped. But I
Yep.
think that's less and less nowadays.
Yeah.
It's a lot of word of mouth, and
Yep.
yeah.
You said to me when we spoke last week that you were often, well, mostly the youngest person in the room.
Absolutely.
How has that worked for you? How's that? Is it? Do you get much, pushback?
Well, I don't know if I get much pushback, so to say. It's look, certainly I am the youngest in the room. I've done a few jobs now, but I could count them on one hand where there's people sort of around my age in the room, but it's few and far between.
Yeah.
And I've always, I believe in myself. I know what my ability is, and
Yeah.
whether however old I am, that ability is still there. And any clients who are or production companies who are a bit hesitant on that, they work with me once, and it never
I
comes
mean,
up
that's just
again.
that. Yeah, exactly. So it's just prejudice in its
Yeah.
pure definition, isn't it? I mean, someone's prejudged you, but
Yeah.
but if you can prove who you are, and they ultimately, I think we're a very egalitarian industry generally. So if you can, it's all about what you can do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen too much. It's happened maybe twice, 3 times in the past couple
Yeah.
of years, but yeah, everyone I work with now, they know me, and it's not really a problem, which is good. It's great to work with people like that. Who, they value the skill, and
Yeah.
and just on being the youngest person in the room, I've always tried to just bring value to wherever I am.
Yeah.
So, I still, despite being the youngest person in the room, I'll make sure that I really am providing value, whether it is
Yep.
just in audio if I'm doing that for the day, or vision, or wherever. But I just try to keep learning and keep going.
Well, I think if you're respectful of that,
Yeah.
rather than being the opposite, and I guess being very egotistical or trying to prove who you are, but if you just know your spot, but also let the evidence come out.
Yeah, and that's it. I think it doesn't take long. Like other older experienced techs, they pick up on that a lot, because you actually are experienced, even though initially they might think you don't look experienced, because typically people your age might not be. But as soon as you start working for a little bit and realise, oh, that guy's just got his stuff covered, then I can get on with what I want to do, and that's a guy that I want on my team.
Yeah, because the obvious, someone just sees you and says, "Well, how old is he? How can he be that experienced?" It's the obvious, I guess, question that you can see how they'd come to.
Yeah. It doesn't look very good on a resume. Been freelancing for 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
But then someone gets to know me.
yeah. So you've not worked full time anywhere. As I said, I mean, I started in this game when I was 19, 20 as well, but I was full time for 5, 6 years.
Yeah, same.
Working my way through.
I think that's normal too. It's pretty usual from what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So you are, in that sense, an outlier as well, in that way as well. Breaking the molds.
Well, that's right. I mean, I've just been doing my thing. As long as I'm, as long as I'm happy, I enjoy coming to work every day. I don't really see any need to change that. I've had full-time offers.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to, sort of, get my interest really, but B, they also haven't been able to match, financially what I'm able to earn doing freelance work. So,
Yeah.
I haven't accepted any full-time things, and I'm quite happy with the, diversity of work that I've got.
Yep.
I'm able to work for different production companies. If there's a company I'm working with and we just don't click, then that's nice and easy then.
So you do a bit of touring work, don't you?
I do. Don't know if I'd call it touring.
Well, interstate.
But interstate work, yeah, away work. Primarily sort of corporate stuff. But yeah, I love doing the interstate work. It's becoming a really big part of my
Is that
work.
coming from Melbourne-based businesses who wanting to take you with them?
Yeah. Lots of work up the East Coast. Just in Canberra for a conference last week, and Sydney the week before. But yeah, lots of East Coast sort of work. Melbourne companies that I've worked with for several years, and
Yep.
yeah, they've got jobs up in Sydney or Brisbane or wherever, and I'll go there and do it. And it's great fun. I really quite enjoy doing that.
Yeah. And definitely when people from Melbourne travel, they often, they want to take people with them that they're used to and trust.
Yes.
And
That's right, because you never know what you're going to get, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You go to a venue up in Sydney. Maybe you've flown up there and done a quick site visit for 1 hour, but
Yeah.
you just don't know what
That's
the
it.
in-house decks are going to be like.
You're already dealing with all these other variables like the new room. Maybe you're cross-hiring a bunch of gear because you can't get everything up there. At least,
right.
you got the people around you that you can trust. And
Yep.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And Sydney does the same. Back to here.
Oh, definitely.
It's a fairly, standard operating practice, I suppose.
Lots of travel in our industry. It's good. You've got lots of choices whether you want to travel or not.
Yes.
you
But
know,
as a young man, still living at home?
I am. Well, not for long.
No? Okay.
I'm in the process of doing that right now,
Oh, wow.
and it's an absolute pain.
Breaking news, Mum.
Terrible. That's right. Oh, sorry to tell you like that. No, but yeah, it's pretty rough at the moment. I had a chat to a real estate agent just yesterday about it, and I said, she was really nice. She was showing me a property, and a property available for lease.
Yeah.
And she was just really nice. Answered all my questions. Clearly knew what she was talking about. She cared, and she looked like she was enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I actually said to her, like, you're the nicest agent that I've talked to for the past 2 weeks.
Right.
And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, you should hear some of the stories. It's really rough at the moment, and because the vacancy rate is just so low.
Yeah.
They kind of get away with it.
And it's like
Because
that,
you just don't have a choice.
it's kind of like, they don't have to try.
That's right.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
That's right.
there's people lining up.
They don't have
Yeah.
to sell it at all.
Yeah.
Like they're going to get 30 plus applications anyway.
And you find yourself rocking up and there's, 50
Yeah.
other people there. Yeah.
Are you struggling because your age or because you're not a full-time staff member somewhere? Like they love a regular job.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. That's a conversation I've been having with my accountant and stuff, and we've been sort of trying to work out, exactly how to structure things to make it look a bit better. And, in the last few months, there's been a few changes structurally and financially to make all this work. And, it's a bit tricky. There's so many things that they take into consideration. And
I've always found it really weird. It's like your real estate people, banks, all these people, they'd love to see a full-time wage.
Yeah. Yep.
When as a freelancer, a lot of the time you say, well, look, I've got 5 regular jobs. If I lose a job,
Yes.
I got 4 others to fall back on and then I can go get another one. Whereas if
The other guy's got all his eggs in one basket.
he's got one job, if he loses that, then he's stuffed.
And it can happen, and it has happened, and it does happen. Just because you got 3 months of pay slips does not mean that you're going to have...
Yeah, but the bias is there. It can be hard.
Yep.
I guess it's tangible. They can understand it. They've all got full-time jobs. They don't. The gig economy is often seen as being, inconsistent. But for us, it is a consistent inconsistent.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The ebbs and flows of it all. But on that, I have recently become a PTY Ltd instead. And, this was consciously in my mind part of the reason. So technically I am a full-time employee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of my own business.
Yes.
And so, I do have pay slips and things like that.
Unfortunately,
Which makes it all...
you are the business is you, and it doesn't really matter. Having
that's right.
owned and having multiple was my own. I used to think the same, but you go for a home loan, they go, that's not the same.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So any debt and all that stuff, the business. But once the business is profitable,
Yeah.
then you are in a better position.
Absolutely.
Than others. So very good. And so again, regular big production companies. I know you did some stuff from Harry's.
I've done stuff with them for quite a while now.
Nice.
Great group of people to work with.
Excellent.
And really cool. Great opportunities. They've been really kind to fly me up to Sydney.
Yep.
Heaps of times now, more than I can count.
Yeah.
And, really cool shows. Great equipment, great people. So,
Yep. Nice.
Yep. Yeah. Got a few production companies I work with. Quite regularly, and it's nice. It's good to have that balance. Again, the diversity of work. I can do those big shows at a company like Harry's, and huge shows, ICC, at the Mech, and I can then the next week do a tiny little conference in a breakout room or something like that. It's good to have that sort of balance. I quite enjoy it.
I saw on one of your social media channels recently, you're involved with Moomba this year.
I was.
Tell us about that.
Well, someone I've known for a long time, Gary Ashmore. He reached out to me. I did Moomba last year for them. I looked after their the TVC playback at one of their major sites, and this year I looked after content for the entire show, pretty much.
Okay.
And for the Birdman Rally in particular. So
For our interstate and international.
Oh, yes, of
listeners,
course.
I
Yeah,
might
yeah.
just try and explain what Moomba is. It is, it happens on our Labor Day
I think so.
weekend.
Yeah.
It's probably 100 years old or something, but it's had a few different iterations of what it's about. But the word Moomba is an Indigenous term, but it's kind of like a festival vibe with different activities along
the river,
along our Yarra River.
Major public event.
Major public event.
Draws crowds of thousands.
Yeah, it has
huge
does it
event.
still have a parade down the main street? It used to.
It didn't.
Floats?
It didn't this year due to the heat.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, but it has in previous years.
We have a king and queen of Moomba. We still do that.
Yeah.
And there's fairground sort of rides and stuff along the river and fireworks at night.
Does it go for like a week or so?
I think it was 5 days.
5
It was
days,
over the long weekend, so Thursday through to Monday. Yeah. But huge crowds. Big major event, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
And one of the penultimate things of Moomba was always this Birdman Rally, which is amateurs jumping off a scaffolding platform into the river with their homemade
Yes. Yeah.
what do you call kites or whatever they can put on their arms and try and flap. And so it's been around forever. And is it still on TV?
It was this year.
Yeah, nice.
First year in quite a while that it's been on TV, and it was on due to the Moomba parade being cancelled. So bit of a happy accident that my work then ended up on TV. That was quite cool to watch.
Cool.
Doesn't happen every day, but so it was on TV this year. Draws major crowds. People dress up in their crafts. They've got a team. They've got a charity.
Yeah.
There's prizes for most money raised. There's an overall prize. Some prize for whoever flies the furthest.
They fall. They literally
Falls with style.
Yeah. Well, there was one in particular this year that flew quite nicely, and
okay.
that was quite good. But in previous years, there was one that sort of jumped off. The wind caught their wing, and they started going backwards towards the rocks. From that point, the platform's been extended a bit.
Okay.
And there's been some changes, but it's
H&S.
turns out flying backwards doesn't quite work.
No.
And so were you camera switching? What were you doing?
No, I was doing. So I designed the content package for it.
Nice.
So there's all sorts of things. There's voiceovers. Please welcome the next person. Blah blah blah. Start of day voiceovers, end of day. There's music tracks. So after every jump, there's a complex sort of sequence. There's dancers that come up on stage and they do like a 30-second little dance improv type thing.
Yep.
But super cool. Really, quite a tightly packed show. And no time code or anything like that. It's all sort of on the fly because someone might take 30 seconds to jump off. It's all very unpredictable. So,
Yeah, of course.
we really have to, have good show calling and good rehearsal and everything.
Nice.
And we did. The show went really well. And
Excellent.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And so where does that content go? Are there sort of screens all sort of throughout the event space?
Yeah, well, so
everywhere,
on the stage platform, there's a giant lead wall. It was like 10 meters across or something. Giant outdoor lead wall. And so, it's a mix of cameras and, our content, obviously. So, nice animations at the start. Each competitor has music that they walk up to.
Yeah.
The dance tracks at the end. But, all of that content goes up on a big on a big LED wall behind. So I didn't have anything to do with the camera, but yeah, all that, all the graphics and music and stuff, that was coming from me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic opportunity and really great. Again, you know, Gary's done a lot for me over the years. So,
Okay.
you know, I'd quite happily shout him out. Yeah, you know, back when I was just getting started, you know, this was back year 11, so I was 16, 17 or something. And yeah, back then I hadn't done any work for anyone other than my dad.
Yeah.
And I did this job for Gary, and yeah, you know, he's just going to pay me $20 an hour or whatever to be there. You know, it was great. Got to chat to these really senior techs who, you know, I now work with all the time. And yeah, at the end of that, I sent my little Excel invoice through as a 17-year-old would, and yeah, he sent it back and said, "Oh no, let's make that a different rate." And he
Good.
bumped it up heaps. So you know, he's been fantastic to me. He's been a
Nice.
really great,
Yeah.
yeah, a great person and a great mentor to sort of bounce off.
It's good. It's very good.
So was that kind of long hours and with the Moomba one? Is it a lot of sitting
yeah.
there in content land
Yeah, it
for
was a lot
5
of
days straight?
A
Or?
lot of pre-production, a lot of
Yeah.
audio processing and things like that. Yeah, I didn't make the graphics. I just sort of trimmed them up and
Yeah.
made sure that they worked. And then yeah, lots of building and refining the show file and, you know, triple checking that it's all gonna play nicely. And
Yeah.
you know, we also needed to have options. You know, if one of the jumpers went in a different order or something like that, we needed to be able to adjust on the fly. So
Okay.
yeah, you know, it needed to be a pretty versatile sort of show file, and it was great.
Yeah.
Worked
And so what sort of thing do you use to run that if you want to get a bit techie for a
Oh
little
yeah, you know, most people, you know, chatting to people, they were recommending QLab, and I was going to use QLab, but I'm more, you know, I'm more skilled on PVP. So I actually
yeah.
used PVP for it. I had multiple layers, and you had a main vision layer because there's nothing that goes up twice on the screen. It's just whatever graphic is up, and then I had multiple audio layers. So, you know, because we'd have music and a voiceover at the same time, and yeah, I made these action cues that could trigger a bunch of stuff at once. It worked
cool.
really well.
That sounds just me thinking about it. That would probably allow you to be a bit more versatile as well with something like PvP. It's like, oh, we need to go to that. You can just kind of trigger it straight away rather than having something
Yeah, go next.
that's preset.
List, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
that
really
was
cool.
that was a reason as well. Yeah, it
Yeah.
worked really well, and yeah, offered us that versatility, which was great.
Very good. Do you've, I mean, as a young person, I'm going to stereotype here a bit, but I mean, obviously you're very technical and digitally savvy.
Yes. Yep.
And that's very good, and that's great for, and I would imagine that'd be making a real asset for as an AV tech, because not every AV guy can understand content.
Yep.
You know, and sort of do that sort of stuff. So that is awesome.
Yeah, it's
You
it's
get much of a
interesting,
chance to
you know.
do that though on a regular, normal corporate event.
Content and
Yeah.
pre-production and stuff. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's plenty of jobs which I've done. You know, plenty of shows where, you know, I've done that sort of pre-production and stuff. Lots of shows where I'm hitting go on content. You know, playback tech.
Cool.
You know, be it for someone's ears or you know, actually going out to stream. But yeah, it's you know, speaking of digital, when I was growing up, obviously lots of things were analog audio. You know, digital video was sort of coming in. The HDMI was sort of getting started, and you know, things were changing.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in effectively a digital world. So you know, they're really, you know, not that I haven't used analog desks, because I have, but yeah, there was no sort of unscrewing the channel and, you know, switching it out or anything. It was all
Yeah.
digital when I was
Yeah.
really getting hands-on with the gear by
Yeah.
that stage.
Yep.
And so, yeah, there's never really been any sort of other way of thinking in my
No.
mind.
Yeah.
Haven't had to crossover or adapt. It's just innate.
That's right. Yeah, all that processing is just there on the desk, and it's all available.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic what technology can do these days.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
yeah, even in the last, you know, in the span of my career, which has been very
Yeah.
short.
I can actually see that as an advantage, because a lot of people that did have to sort of make that transition,
Absolutely.
working primarily with analog, had to change their way of thinking and readapt it. I remember the first time I jumped on a digital desk, or the first few times, it was just like an analog used to, everything's just there in front of you, you just
That's
need
right.
to find it.
Yeah.
But I was forever just like, hang on, what page? Why is there pages? What's going on here? And that sort of thing. But
And they're all a
that's-
bit different, you know, sound.
Yeah,
quality,
yeah.
it's-
That's
You know.
And yeah, that's the main thing, I guess. Analog desks are analog desks. They're just kind of placed in a different spot, but they each had their own sort of workflow. But I guess coming from that, where that's what you're used to, I guess that allows you to sort of fire a bit quicker as well. Like in terms of your career, you're kind of already used to that way of working, and your brain sort of is wired that way from the get-go, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, and being a youngster, you know, I'd used the M32 as a kid.
Oh,
I used Allen and Heath digital consoles as a kid. So, you know, going into that now, it's like, it's like second nature.
Yeah. Having access to that high-end gear would have been a massive, massive plus, because a lot of people just don't get their hands on that stuff until
school productions and things like that. You know, they would rarely have, you know, sort of equipment like that. I mean, you know, depending on your school, but yeah, that was certainly a great advantage, really.
Yeah. Excellent. But when your father decided to wind up, it wasn't an option for you to keep that going? Or?
Yeah, no. Look, I was 17 when all that happened, so not really.
No.
You know,
Focused on school
looking
and,
back, that would have been great. But I was in
probably
school
didn't.
still, so it just wasn't a chance.
No. And I guess you probably didn't want to be lumbered with a warehouse full of gear.
Well, you know, I mean, it was a good run, and I remember, that, you know, there were times where they were absolutely flat out.
Yeah.
And at the start of COVID, I went to the warehouse, and it was just really strange to see it all quiet.
Yeah.
It was a bit sad, really, that all that happened. And looking back now, you know, there's so many things that we can look back on from that time and be like, wow, we shouldn't have done that, or shouldn't have done this. You know, whether looking at the company or looking at the government and the way that we sort of responded to COVID, you know, with the lockdowns and everything. But, you know, can't do anything about that now. So, right. You know, I try not to spend too much time thinking about the past and just looking at the future and whatever I'm going to do.
But it's probably a good way to reset, though, isn't it? In that way, now you've got whatever you buy now, it can be geared around what you use, and it's all new and contemporary, not something that's 10 years old. And if you want to just keep it as simple and a flyaway kit and be that guy who can just keeps it all small, and you don't have to worry about potentially having a warehouse and all that sort of stuff, or maybe you do.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I've got a little storage shed at the moment. You know, just with a bit of equipment. I've got some PA and consoles. I've got a nice vision rack. Just sort of basics like that I use fairly regularly. I've got some little on wheels speakers prep racks, which are quite handy. Yeah, some networking equipment. But just sort of the basics. But certainly, you know, it gives me the flexibility to sort of choose where I'm going to go, and if I want to just sort of freelance for the next 5 years, I can do that. If I want to, you know, sort of grow into doing a lot more of my own sort of shows, I can do that too. So it's a great opportunity, and fantastic.
That's right.
You mentioned networking gear. This is something I wanted to find out as well. When I started out in AV, networking was completely separate to AV.
Yep. I find that too with a lot of techs. It's not a skill that many people have.
No.
Yep.
But more and more now, it does seem that it's getting integrated into everything. So how have you found that? Have you got something like that? Was something that I sort of initially kind of like fought against in my own, I'm not going to learn networking. You know, I'm an AV guy. I didn't get into AV to learn IT.
No, that's right. Yeah.
But it's something you have to know now, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, you know, this might sound crazy to the audience, but, you know, when I was growing up, I had a little laptop. Like I lived in this world where we had Google and YouTube and everything when I was like 7. So, you know, growing up, that was just never, it was never any other way for me. So, you know, I had the internet, I had a laptop, I had all this tech in my life. So I was always a very technical person. And I understood how IP addresses and stuff worked back then, you know, whether it was doing like a little Minecraft server or whatever I was doing back then. But, you know, I learnt that pretty early on. And then, obviously these days, as you said, you know, networking, it's pretty much everything. I mean, even, you know, the little Blackmagic switches and things like that, they're all network controlled. Dante, NDI, you know, vMix, it's all, you know, everything, you know, can be made better with, network,
especially NDI and Dante, like you say, you really have to understand networks to get the most out of them and prevent issues where, in the past we were just talking about the quality of cable and all that kind of stuff and where it's going in and out. But it's, again, like the whole digital thing, it's not just what you can see. It used to be what you could see, is you could visually track a signal, whereas now it's all done digitally. You really have to understand what's going on under the hood.
But it's not a specialised thing anymore, is it? I mean, networking is just a normal thing in the AV world.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep. I think more and more, the people who sort of don't understand it now, don't want to say getting left behind, but things are moving pretty quickly at the moment.
Yeah.
And as I said, over the span of my short career thus far, that networking has really become very important suddenly.
Yeah.
So that makes me fairly valuable as well. Is being skilled in that, understanding what I'm looking at when I look at a series of IP addresses or subnets or whatever, and actually sort of know what I'm doing a little bit in that, which is good. I'm no expert, but just sort of know how to navigate it.
But that's what makes a really good AV guy, isn't it? I mean, we're not necessarily masters of, but we are certainly good ones, very skilled at lots of things, because we do tend to be out on our own, and we need to be autonomous and independent and troubleshooting and problem solving.
That's it.
Out in the field.
And that can be the hard thing, because because you need to do that, you can't, in that sense, dedicate yourself too much, like go too deep into the rabbit hole, because there's so many other things you need to know.
Yeah.
So it's about knowing how much you need to know to get your job done.
Yep.
And that's going to get you by and help you out in those situations. Like, and being networking, you're not going to be an IT engineer, but you're going to be able to know when NDI stops working in the middle of the show, why that might be and how you can go about trying to fix it. Is essential.
But you're obviously someone who loves to learn, teach yourself, sort of.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've watched plenty of YouTube videos on things, but just the other day I was chatting to someone. It was bump out time of this gig, and I hadn't chatted to him yet, so chatted to him, and pretty quickly I sort of picked up that, hang on, this guy knows a thing or two.
Yep.
And so then I go from casual conversation to shut up and listen / ask a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
And it was great. It's I just try and talk to and connect with techs who are at that higher level than me. If I'm here, I want to be connecting with people who are up there.
Yeah.
And it's great. I've got lots of people in my network who I can chat to. If I have a question about the E2, for example, I have people I can call who will pick up and really want to help me out. And it's just such a lucky position to be in, really, to have a support network like that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing about our industry. Like you said, when you were younger, you were sort of a techie person interested in all that sort of stuff. And I think a vast majority of us have that same experience. And we just love talking about the tech and how it comes in together. It doesn't seem to be one of those industries that's really guarded that other ones can. Like, everyone's happy to share. They want to, if they've found out a new trick or a new way of doing things, they'll share it. And I think it's good. I think we need to do a lot more of that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, being more open about things and, just giving people a hand. I mean, that's how I've got where I am, is from great techs like yourselves, giving me a hand and trusting me, especially back when I was younger and a bit greener. And just having those conversations. And I did a gig a little while ago with the E2, and it was a 3-blend output.
Okay.
I hadn't done that before. I've done 2s and whatever, and I've had a little bit of experience with the E2 at that stage, but nothing much. And I was just very open to the production company about that. I said, look, I've seen the notes here 2 weeks out. It's on the E2. I've used that before, but I've only kind of hit presets and stuff. I haven't really sort of set it up from the ground up before. And they're all cool with that. I think just being upfront about your skill set is, it lets them trust you more as well.
Yes.
They know that you're not just gonna be winging it. They're aware of what your skill set is and whether you can or cannot do something. And they don't book you for no reason, though.
Yep.
But I guess in those situations, you've got the confidence in yourself that, I guess, you don't have to know everything. Sometimes you're kind of like, okay, I know this much. I know those people are there. There's a plane. Yeah, we love our...
Yeah. Shout out to Moorabbin Airport.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you got that faith in your ability to figure things out, I guess?
Yeah. I know what I know, and I'm starting to know what I don't know as well. You've heard the saying, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to sort of recognise where I'm not as strong. I'm chatting to people about that. I know techs who are strong in those areas, so every time I work with them, I pick their brain on 100 things. I mean, there are people who can attest to that, I assure you.
Well, as long as you're not being a serial pest, ringing them at 4 a.m. and standing out the front of their house.
Sure.
But it is a great way to learn. And as John was saying, I mean, people generally are really happy to talk about stuff. You know, we're not guarded or closed, I don't think.
Generally not, no. Do you see yourself specialising in any particular direction in the future? Or are you still in that exploring everything? Or
Yeah, look, that's a tricky question. I don't know. I don't really know what the future holds in terms of that. I mean, one of the best things about doing the freelance work is that because I'm not full-time, I'm not just doing audio every day for these sort of jobs and blah, blah, blah. You know, I've got that freedom to, you know, there's some companies I work with think I'm just a vision guy.
Yes.
And there's other companies who think I'm just an audio guy. So it's fantastic. In the same week, I can be doing high-end audio on a line array system, and then in the same week later on, I can be programming an E2 and doing some projection or something. It's,
that's good.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I enjoy that for now. So
I mean, look, it is
no plans to specialise.
20. I don't imagine you'll know the answer to this, and I certainly wouldn't when I was 20. Yeah, what the future holds and where you think this will all go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess. Well, you know, do you have any kind of aspirations, thoughts of where you do think you'll be in 10 years' time?
Look, I mean, as long as I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and you know,
hopefully
I'm
you've
able to
secured that
sustain
rental
myself.
property by then.
Well, we've never know. Never know which way the market's going to go. But yeah, it's you know, as long as I'm happy and as long as I'm you know, able to sustain myself and and you know, I'm doing what I love, then I've got no problems really.
And I guess the market will determine where you feel you want to fit. I mean, when we had our episode, we talked about with Kieran, but you know, he's sort of edging more towards sort of TV production sort of world. But you know, whether that's you do more Moombas and more that sort of gear, or whether you stay in corporate AV.
Yep. Well, I'm booked for Moomba next year.
Oh, good.
oh, there you go.
So that's fantastic. But yeah, you know, I'll just keep doing the corporate AV stuff. I've in some conversations at the moment about doing some live music tours and things like that.
Okay.
I won't
in
say too
a
much about
vision
that,
kind of component.
probably
or
audio.
An audio.
It's looking like so you know, I won't say too much about that. It's pretty early days, but yeah, you know, wherever I sort of go now, it's as long as I'm having fun, as long as I'm enjoying myself and I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not miserable getting out of bed in the morning to go to work or something. Then I consider that a win, really.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of, as you say, being a freelancer. If you decide that you're, getting really interested in audio or a particular type of audio, you can go and kind of chase that work, I guess. And about that excitement about getting out of bed, if you find that you're not at any stage, you've got the ability to be flexible and think, well, why aren't I enjoying this? How can I set things up so that I am excited to go to work and I am working on the kind of jobs that I want to work on? So it's a really, really good situation to be in, I think.
It can be a bit clicky, I guess, that, and we talked about that with Lachlan, but you know, that sort of rock and roll kind of
Audio?
side. Yeah, and audio. Yeah.
I've heard that. Yeah, it's a little bit it's a different lifestyle, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's chatting to those guys, it's it's certainly different than the corporate side.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a bit of it where there's a lot of shared skills, of course. But yeah, there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And look, that's what it sort of is pivoting on.
Yeah.
Is that I'd like to learn that side of it. I've done corporate for pretty much all my life. You know, not to say I haven't mixed bands and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I certainly have, but not in any sort of really big capacity like that.
Yeah.
So watching the productions that those guys put on, it's truly next level.
Yeah.
It was interesting how Lachlan said as well, like in AV, he did do, he did audio, did vision, did lights. And he found when he went into the rock and roll land, it wasn't until he said, I do lights, or picked one, that it really took off in that direction.
Yeah.
Whereas in AV, people love people that are good at everything. But he found that
we like a jack of all trades, and they pretend to prefer maybe a master. And,
Yep.
It's a different world. What about international?
I haven't done any international yet. I've never actually been overseas at all.
I hope that you don't be too much of a serious young insect and just get some travel and all that sort of stuff.
Right. I love travelling, so I had an offer to do something in New Zealand a little while ago, but it just sort of didn't fit timings wise with a few other big projects that were happening. So wasn't able to do that one. But yeah, I mean, if something international comes up, if anyone listening, especially if you're looking for someone to do something like that, I'd certainly be keen. I haven't done it before, but again, just want to learn new things. I'm so young, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
can really do anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, it's a great, if lots of people have gone and worked in the UK for a year or, that
Yes.
sort of thing. It's
I spoke to someone just about that just last week.
very transferable skills and,
Yeah.
Do you have, in terms of network and sort of finding new work, meeting new people, like, do you have sort of a plan in how you go about that? Or are you just, as you've said earlier, you're just generally curious, you want to talk to people, and you just, whenever you get the opportunity, you're putting yourself out there? How structured is that kind of outreach thing, or how much is just getting out and meeting people?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd say it's sort of structured. Every job I do, if I meet someone new, I'll have a chat to them.
Yeah.
I hope I'm a pretty friendly person. I seem
Yeah,
seem to be.
definitely.
And I'll chat to anyone about AV or something in the industry. So yeah, whenever I meet someone new, I'll have a chat to them, and sometimes that leads to work, but I've got no expectation that it will.
Yeah.
So I'll just sort of approach things that way, and then as I sort of said before the show, I'm not a super social person, but I try and post on LinkedIn a little bit when I remember.
yeah.
And and when I can as well, just depending on the show and the client.
Yeah.
And so I've got a bit of work that way. But
Yeah.
I mean, look, right now my calendar's pretty full. So
And it's referrals, people
that's right. Yeah, word of mouth. I mean,
Yeah.
people change jobs, and I've picked up plenty of work that way. A production manager from one company, he resigns and gets a job somewhere else, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call.
Yeah.
And, yep.
There you go. Now you got two clients where you had one.
That's right.
Works well.
That's
yeah.
right.
Well, that's how it kind of often works, isn't it?
Yep.
And that's why it doesn't pay to burn your bridges and just try and keep everybody happy.
That's right. Yep.
Excellent. So let's hopefully you think you get into the point where you've got a little warehouse and a van and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I've got a warehouse. Well, I don't know if you call it a warehouse.
A
It's
lock-up,
a small little lock-up shed.
Yeah.
No van yet.
No.
Yeah, I've got a tiny little hatchback car, which is not very helpful with carrying equipment.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
So unfortunately, didn't really plan well there. But it's I must say, fantastic in getting
Yeah.
into those small parking spots.
Yes.
Though.
Yeah, in the city.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely get you out of trouble.
Yeah, you go to one of those Wilson parking, the 10 levels. You usually have to drive up to the top to find a car park.
Yeah.
There's always those little small car spots down the bottom. That
Yeah,
no one
and you're
takes.
sorted.
Yeah.
Straight into
in.
there. It takes no time. So
Yeah.
it's got its pros and cons. But I've got that little warehouse space. It's got things in road cases, and it's all sort of happening. But for now, my focus is certainly freelance work.
Yeah.
And just continuing to learn.
Yeah. Very good. Well, I think it's inspiring. I mean, I've just, I started when I was your age, but I definitely haven't done what you have done. I was just like, I suppose most of us just starting out.
Yep.
So it is an awesome, short but intense little journey that you've been on.
Yeah, it's been a lot, and the opportunities I've had in
Yeah.
the past few years. I mean, looking back, it certainly surprises me. I
Yep.
didn't think that I'd have done what I've done.
Yeah.
But yeah, the people I've met, the techs, the production managers, the companies I've worked with, I mean, just so generous, especially back when I was a bit younger. Very generous in letting me come along and
Yep.
and just learn. And I told them at the time, like, I haven't done this before, but can I come along? And then I pick it up, and just sort of snowballs from there. But yeah, the short sort of time, it's been fantastic. I love doing the interstate work, as I said.
Yeah.
Really, I do like the travel, especially, I don't have kids or anything.
No.
Yeah, don't have anything really tying me to one place.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah. So if you're going to other people, younger people getting into the game, like what sort of advice or what things have helped you out in this short amount of time to sort of get you ahead?
Yeah, just chatting to people.
Yeah.
It's one of those industries where if you ask your mum or something, they'll be like, oh, I don't really know what you do. I mean, I've been to a concert before, and there's that little table at the back. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can be a bit strange for people, and especially corporate even more so. We're in the shadows. We're in the back
All
of
in
the room.
black.
If we could be invisible, they'd want.
They would.
it,
That's
right?
right.
So
Yeah.
that's the intention, and I think do a good job of that. But yeah, just having a chat to people when you go to a concert or something. Don't be afraid to go to the back of the room and just say hi.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what you're doing, and maybe you'll get someone who isn't interested in talking to you. But from what I've met, I'd say 90% of people would love to have a chat to you and give you some help. Facebook groups and stuff like that. There's the I Need Crew groups that I know are fairly popular in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, in Melbourne at least. But yeah, I've seen in recent times a few youngsters posting on there just saying, reaching out, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
School productions as well, great way to learn. If your school has a music department.
Yep.
And then if you're a bit older as well, there's courses to sort of do it.
Yeah, but it ultimately does come down to your drive, your ambition, and your willingness to put yourself out there.
Putting yourself out there, definitely.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And knowing as well that there's more to AV than just the rock and roll side. There's this huge corporate side that, not only you're using good gear, it's, you have to be good with clients, right? So there's that.
It's huge, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but, there's this huge corporate side that not many people, especially coming out of those courses, know about.
No, it's not talked about.
Yeah, the audio engineering courses, I've spoken to students who have come out of that, and they've ended up in the corporate side, just sort of they need a job and they've sort of come over to it. But yeah, there's a couple of production companies that are sort of picking up on that now and recruiting people out of those schools, which is it's a good move, really.
Yeah, indeed.
Yep.
Well, on that bombshell, I think we say thank you for joining us today. It's been a great chat. And we wish you all the best, but I know you'll continue to do really well.
No, we're all going to be working for him one day.
Exactly. Just putting that out there.
Don't know about that.
Yeah. Just remember.
With that kind of drive.
Yeah.
No, thanks for being on there.
Yeah, thanks
Good
for having
chat.
me. It's been a pleasure.
Indeed. And we will see you all again next time. And goodbye from us.
Catch you next time.
See ya. Bye.
Gafferpedia is brought to you by TechBox, Hippo Event Technology, AV Hire, and Cardigan Creative. Catch you on the next episode.